Hello there, welcome to this guide on the pit crew, your sporting director, and generally how you can bring down your estimated pit stop times, your chance of making an error, and generally just how you can rapidly and efficiently improve your pit crew. So first and foremost, we're going to be going through this man down here, the sporting director. Your sporting director basically represents everything your pit crew can ever be through these 4 stats, and we'll be going through them and what they do. So training is pretty straightforward. It's how quickly your pit crew develop their skills. The higher the rating, the faster they will develop, and the less performance they will lose between seasons. Basically, at the end of the season, your pit crew will lose some of their stats, and this stat kind of helps mitigate that. Aptitude is your skill ceiling for your crew members, basically meaning that your pit crew has skills themselves. They do not scale from 0 to 100. In this case, it will go from 0 to 89, because the aptitude of our man is 89. If he levels up to 90 aptitude, the skill ceiling of our mechanics will also go up. So this is a fairly important stat. Leadership, on the other hand, basically when you make a pit stop error, the higher this stat is, the less of a time loss you get resulting from that pit error, meaning that it basically has an effect when you already have, screwed up. So it lessens the time loss during pit stop errors. Processes has to do with fatigue, and fatigue is probably the most important thing you need to manage with your pit crew, and we'll be going through that once we get to the calendar. But basically this stat has to do with how quickly, it lessens the fatigue gain from training and race weekends. Now, in terms of what I would say is the most important stat here, I'd probably say aptitude, because training still goes pretty quickly, and by halfway through season 2, you're probably going to be hitting the skill cap on every skill for your pit crew. So again, aptitude I'd probably rank as number 1. The second skill I say is processes, because again, fatigue kinda is very important to manage, and if it gets too high, you're gonna have a very bad time with your pit crew. Training, as I said, and leadership. Leadership is situational. As your pit crew improves, you can actually bring the chance of making an error down to, at least 6%, probably even lower than that, 5%, 4%. So with that in mind, it's not a very important stat. It can be if you are going to be, abusing your pit crew in terms of fatigue, but honestly, I wouldn't put any value in this. It's not that important. Training the same. Again, even at low training like this guy was able to basically raise a pit crew to the max by the halfway through season 2. So again, the only 2 real things you need to focus on for your sporting director is the aptitude as number 1, and process as number 2. And with that, once we actually got ourselves a good sporting director, we want to go into development here and put him on industry standards, which actually makes him focus on aptitude and processes, making it perfect. Now, with that said, for your pit crew, we are going to be talking a little bit about fatigue. So fatigue is a system to basically say how tired your pit crew is. Can they handle more training? Can they handle race weekends? Can they handle basically, everything in between? And the way that you manage that is through the training schedule, which we'll go into in a second, and have a look here. So as you can see here's your training schedule. You can click on any day here, and then you can put in any training that you desire. Pit stop drills, very simple, has to do with these stats here. The top 5 ones here actually deal with your pit stop error chance. And depending on what we choose here, we could potentially change, what these stats are going to go up in. But usually 1 training is enough, and as you can see, we can do 2 if we really wanted to. And as we do more training, the stats are going to change. These 2 here are kind of different, total and cumulative. Total is very simple in the sense that it takes the entire month under 1 and shows you the exact gains. Cumulative allows you to pick any day here and have a look at not only your stats gained, but what your current fatigue will be. And it's a very important tool for managing set fatigue. But again, the stats here, the pit crew attributes, these top 5 here are just for your pit stop errors. You can train them through the pit stop drills, either balanced, or you can focus on any of the 5 stats here, as you see. The car building one is also its own thing, doesn't have any focuses. Basically allows you to more quickly change setups and replace car parts if there is damage. So it can be important, but I wouldn't put any real value to it. And gym training, build up strength and agility to improve the overall speed of pit stops. This is probably what you're going to be using for the first few months to get that pit stop time down. So we're going to set up a calendar here very quickly here with a pit stop time down. Keep in mind though that gym training takes more fatigue out of your voice than most other things. So for now, we're just going to switch everything to said calendar, and we'll rest for these 2 days. And we'll have a look now on what we can actually gain. So at the end of the month here, we're going to be tired. And as you see it, we're going to be losing about a 1/10 and a half, or 0.15 seconds of the pit stop time, which is pretty good. But the fact that we're going to be tired at a Friday for a Grand Prix is actually worrisome. So as I said, we want to avoid getting weary at the Grand Prix themselves. As you can see, we are going to be weary here at Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So the way to combat that is very simple. We just give them more rest. As long as we are tired, we're good. And as you see here, on Thursday, we need about 20% to be able to get through the weekend without getting into the weary territory. 20 just gives you a little bit of a wiggle room there. Because again, once you hit 50%, you are going to go into that weary territory. And the reason why that is so bad is, as you can have a look here, hitting that increases your error chance by a good 22%, basically. And if we go back again, as you can see here, tired improves that chance by about 0.4%. So tired is fine. It's a very little small increase from well rested. Again, just 0.37%. It's manageable. But once you start hitting, as I said, weary, as you can see here, weary, and even the one beyond that, which is even worse, if you hit exhausted, just put in a couple more. There we go. If we hit exhausted, you can see that chance of mistake increases by 45%. So the thing is also that these presets that you can choose, the pit stop errors, the pit stop time, they don't take that into account. So what I am thinking is happening here with a lot of people complaining that pit stops are not making any sense to them is very simply that by using these presets, you still can go into weary. And that is an extra 20% chance of, a pit stop error, combining into a 35% chance basically in this scenario for a pit stop error at Jeddah. So you can imagine 1 of 3 pit stops being an error, people are going to notice and they're going to think something is wrong. But in general, it's just because these calendars aren't necessarily very balanced, and you should always go cumulative and check every race weekend to see if you hit weary. And if you have like cut-off weekends like this, or basically, you end the week on the month on a Thursday, you kind of want to check that the tired level of this is within that gap. Again, this is going to be too high, so we'll get rid of that one gym training again. 19%, 20% is good because, again, you'll remain below 50%. And we want to set that up here for basically Australia here as well, so we don't get into that level where the pit stop is going to be a bit of a problem. As you can see that we have something to go on, which means that we can do more gym training for lower times. Still well rested, we can put in a couple more trainings there, no problems. And like so. We're now tired, we put in a little bit too much. Let's put one more back to rest. We're still at 25%, that is going to be a bit risky in terms of, getting angry. Now we're back to 19%. So this is probably the calendar I'd use for this month. Because again, as I said, as soon as you get to weary, that chance increases rapidly. Now, in terms of actually training your picker, as I said, you would probably want to focus on the estimated pit stop times until you reach the lower cap. The lower cap of your pit stop times is decided by your aptitude. So once again, aptitude is very important because it sets the cap on how low you can bring your chance of a mistake by focusing these skills. It sets the limit on how low you can go in the pit stop times. So having a high aptitude is vital. And once again, that is why I'm saying that is the most important stat. Again, I probably focus on the estimated pit stop time first. Once I hit that cap, I start working on the error chance. And as I said, we'll be jumping now into a late game, basically end of year 1, and see what the pick crew looks like by using this strategy here, where we basically make sure that we don't go into weary at any given point. And again, focus first, pit stop times, and then chance of mistake. Now, one of the reasons why we want our pit stop crew to be fast to begin with is because of this thing, the DHL Fastest Pit Stop Award. It gives you 12 million if you win it. So again, by following the strategy that I have outlined, where we focus on, again, going to the gym, getting those pit stop times down, the only thing that really matters is how quickly you do your pit stops for this thing. You can very easily get into a position where, in our case, we won 19 out of 23 fastest pit stop this season, and that gives an extra 12 million to play around with the following season, which is going to make our life a little bit easier. Now, the current pit stop crew that we have is, as I said, fairly close to the limit. This is our current pit stop crew, and as you can see, they have fairly good stats here. The estimated pit stop time is at 1.922 seconds. They can be a little bit lower, a little bit above. Our chance of a mistake is down to 6.4%. So again, leadership, don't really need it too much. And as you can see, we still have a few points here to go on. Now, as I said, you will be losing some stats by, you know, moving over to the next month, but you won't be losing any estimated pit stop time. And I'll be showing that. We'll jump directly into next season, and we'll see just how quickly you can raise these stats again. Here we are. These are our pit crew stats after we have ticked over to the next month. And as you can see here, we can basically, within, probably before Bahrain, be back at the level we were before. Currently, this stat is because of Wary. We had to do a little bit of training here to actually get back into it. But if we look at the stats before we get into Wary, we had back down to 7.8% in, you know, chance of making an error. We have brought the pit stop time down already back to what it was. And we also did a little bit of work here on the car building side of things. But again, we have a full month where we don't really need to do any rest. So we can do that, use that as catch-up. And as you see, we already brought basically the average up to 80. And basically within 2 months really, 3 months, let's be generous, we're going to be reaching the cap here for our error chance. And once we actually reach the cap here, we can start focusing on just having fatigue at well rested all the time, because we don't really have anything else to focus on. And again, it shouldn't be too difficult to reach it. Again, we won't have any problems with that. So with that in mind, I wouldn't really worry much about the training stat, about the leadership stat, because within the first 1.5 seasons, you're going to be in a position where you really won't need to worry about it. Aptitude is going to be your more important stat, because again, it'll generally just bring down the pit stop times, and it will allow you to bring the chance of a mistake even lower. So again, up to you how you want to handle things. Just reiterating, the reason why the chance of mistake is so high here is because we're wary. If we weren't, the chance of mistake would go down drastically. And also keep in mind that there is one focus you could do for the pit stop drills, which is the wheel gun, which will generally lower the chance of errors even more, because most of the errors are wheel gun errors. But honestly, I just prefer to use balanced. It is probably the easiest way to do things. Just keep things balanced, and that should be perfectly okay in terms of how you want to develop your pit crew. Now, I think I've covered everything, hopefully, in terms of what you need to know about, again, handling your pit crew, leveling them up, getting them ready for, you know, having a wonderful season. So, yeah, that's it. Again, these calendars, they are pretty easy to set up. Just make sure that before you send them in, you check cumulative, and you focus the areas that you want to be on. Check cumulative, check the race weekend, see if you hit that Wary. If you do, you know, put in a few more days rest. And again, if you have a race weekend that you can't identify in full, because it's on the, you know, cusp of a month, Thursday, you want to be below 20%, and then you'll be good. So again, bit of a ranter at the end where I reiterate, but again, training, not really worth it. Your pit crew will level up fairly quickly anyways. And keep in mind also that, as I said earlier, using the presets here could put you in a situation where you will have weary race weekends. So again, make sure you double check with cumulative for the race weekend itself. So yeah, hope this guide has helped you. Thank you for watching, and yeah, drop a like and subscribe if it helps you. It would help me if you did. Thank you very much. Hope to see you around next time. Thank you. Bye bye.